Hey guys, it's Vicki. I obviously was tired and didn't do any talking while I was doing this, but the object of this particular project was to just use mixed media techniques and materials. I started with a 12 by 24 canvas that I'll show you here in a minute, or I think I already did. I've got this fast forwarded, so I got to talk fast. And this is a real fine black canvas. It's on a gallery wrap, so the edges don't have to be treated or painted. And it is by Canvas Corp. And I'm going to coat the whole thing with gesso so that everything. This is an untreated canvas, and I don't want all my paint and glue to soak down into the canvas. So this is a barrier coat. I'm using black gesso from DecoArt Media. And this particular jar that I have is real thick, which is fine. That means I could get an impasto technique if I wanted to, which just means texture you can feel. But I'm thinning it down with water because I knew I was going to do some collaging and I wanted a smoother surface. I'm going in all directions here to make sure that the weave of the canvas is completely covered. And it does smooth out the texture of the canvas quite a bit, which is fine because I'm adding more texture as I go. And it can be as much or as little as you want. I also coat the sides. I love a 12 by 24 size. It lends itself well to whatever you're working on. And you can have some variety of compositions with that as opposed to a regular 3-2 format, which is 12 by 16 or that more squarish rectangle. How about that? And coming back in with a second coat after the first one's dry. No, wait. Never mind. I guess I'm doing, this is still first coat. Kind of like icing a cake. Not that I've done that much of that, but that was never in my creative wheelhouse. I did make a strawberry shortcake cake once. That was an experience. Making sure to get those sides. I may put something on them, I may not, but either way they'll be prepped and ready. It's a nice view there, but you know what I'm doing. You can see how the canvas is beginning to soak up some of the thinner layers, which is normal. Okay, guys, I'm glad I quit when I did last night because I was making stupid mistakes and not allowing stuff time to dry. So we're going to start on the black canvas. It's got 2 coats of gesso, black gesso. It was black canvas and now it's got black gesso. And the reason I did that was because I'm going to mainly do collage on here. And I wanted to give a little more surface to grip to, and I also didn't want it to soak up all the matte medium. So the next thing I've done, let me tell you this. I left, if you're really going to paint on something serial, you want to sand it in between coats and get as smooth a surface as you can. But I like the texture for this project, so I just left it. And 2 coats is plenty. I used DecoArt black, the media line black black gesso. I'll get it out in a minute. The next thing I've done is cut a piece of tracing paper and folded it to exactly the size of the canvas. This is not the typical way I work, but for mixed media and for collage, I need to resolve my design before I start gluing stuff down. So, there it is. Now, I don't want to go there yet because I want to see what kind of ideas I have. And so I've done just rough 12 by 24 openings here. One idea is to have a wine splash and my wine bottle coming up in its proportion. And the proportion of a wine bottle is, I did it on the other side of this, yeah, 5/8 by 2 3/8. And what I did was times 8 times 8. And if I were going to make this wine bottle the best size for this canvas, I would then have 5 by 19 inches. Because you got to keep everything, I don't want it to look like a champagne magnum, I want it to look like a wine bottle. So there's one way that I could do that. I could have a wine glass tipped over, spilling out that wine, and just let it run off the edge if I wanted to. Not have to mess with the bottom of it, but if I wanted to mess with the bottom of it, it could fit right there. Okay? And the wine could be spilling out. Drip, drip, drip. And that leaves you a big open hole here. Now, we could put words like AKA time. That's Wiki speak for adult alcohol. Okay? We could do that to kind of balance what's going on over here. But I had an idea because I've been doing some freeform doodling. Not necessarily Zentangles, but freeform doodling. And I could come out of this wine bottle with circles, and I could run some off, and I could do some lines, circles, circles, something that resembles, that's big, something that resembles the vine on a grape stem. And I pulled up some reference stuff online just to kind of get an idea. The curlicues that are on a grape stem. Kind of like that. That could work. And this doodling could be coming out of the bottle. Then I wondered, okay, what would happen if I took the bottle, let's say I took it to here. This would be the lip of the bottle. Now, say that I bring this shape down and let that bottle go off the edge. Then I could bring in my doodle shape there. And maybe it could be dripping wine to this spot right here. That could work. You could put some writing right here. Now, we have to decide which of those we like the best. They're both proportional to our canvas. I'm going to collage the bottle, B-O-T-T-A-H, bottle. That's not right either. And we could have a label right here. We could bring this on up to give us more collage room. And as long as my proportions are correct on the bottle, something like that. And we know that that bottle is uncorked. So we could also put a corkscrew here and maybe a cork. Now the focus here would be collage doodles on the black canvas. And I'm kind of leaning toward this. My doodle's better there, but you can't let that influence anything. Even paisleys, or whatever floats your boat. We can come up here with some flower shapes. And if y'all want to research some real good ideas for doodling, check out the Mendi, M-E-H-N-D-I, the decorative artwork that is popular in the Hindu culture, particularly for women in weddings and stuff like that. And they paint these designs on their hands and legs and feet in a walnut ink derivative that stains but then comes off. Okay, I like this one for several reasons, and one is that it's off kilter. You know, anybody can do something straight up and down that's parallel to the edge of the canvas. But if you bring something in that's off center, you immediately have motion. And we don't want to go off the canvas in the corner, but we can come around here and do some wine-shaped cluster vines coming down. Now what could happen is this will be darker, so it'll stop your eye. We want to stop the eye. So we'll come down here with a label, lead us across to the wine spill, the corkscrew, and whatever words we decide we want could come up here and back around. And that would keep a person's eye in the canvas. Now the other thing that we can do is, before I ever go into all this stuff, I can come in here with some paint treatments and let it just blend back into the black. And I think that's the one I'm going to go with. Okay? That's how I plan for something like this. So, give me some time and I'll be back. Doing a lot more erasing than sketching, but kind of a primitive way for excuse me, getting the bottle shape accurate. And then I just sneezed. If it wasn't a squirrel. Did you see that measuring on the iPad? That was fun. Just trying to get that bottle proportional. Doesn't have to be exact, but you know, don't want it wonky. And now I'm going through the Vino and Ale packet. These things are great. The retail price is like $14. You get fabric, printed fabric, plain burlap, several of the pieces of printed paper. And I'm deciding here that, I'm still checking the proportions on the wine bottle. But I'm also got an eye, you can see me thinking over there with my hand flopping, looking for things that grab me to make up the rest of the composition. And do I want a cheese tray? What do I want? What's gonna tie all this together? I mentioned a corkscrew, and looks like I'm decided to go with the wine glass, and I'm using the printed wine glass on the fabric. Again, I'm kind of roughly sketching it to size. It's hard work thinking now. And here I'm kind of sketching in a wine bottle opener. I don't want it laying flat on the table. I don't want it pointing straight up into the air. Then it'd look like a phallic symbol. And we don't want that now, do we? Getting it to where I'm about happy. This is a white charcoal pastel pencil by Creative. Roughly sketching over the lines with black so that I can see it from the reverse side. And I'm taking that white pastel pencil and I've flipped it over and I'm going over each of these lines with this white pastel pencil. White charcoal pencil will work. And then now I'm going to come back on top and any kind of a pointed ballpoint pen or anything will trace over those white lines. And I just did one side of the bottle and I turned it over so that I would get an exact mirror image of that bottle. Pretty smart, huh? Haha, I thought so. I don't know how y'all stand me. I'm fussy cutting the canvas printed wine glass. And this won't be a real perfect job, but then it doesn't have to be. I've got a little problem with scale here on the other wine glass. We'll see if I deal with it. And picking out my craft paper. This is the it's the black print on craft. Taking the book apart. These are all sewn right in Springdale. These are made in America, totally. So support Made in America. Okay, got the pages loose. Looking for which bottle opener I want. It's easy for it to read as a bottle opener when you've got a whole page of them. But when you pull one out, I've got to make sure that it really reads and that it's big enough in scale. All right, fussy cutting the, well, I already did. And now I'm getting creative and I'm using the label packaging from the mixed media pack. I'm putting the polka dot border on the bottom. And then I decide to fussy cut the banner that's on the label at the top, because that banner very cleverly shows everything that's in the pack. And it's perfect scale for this canvas because it's 12 inches wide. Duh. Don't waste anything. That's a caveat that I've learned from the mixed media artist. Turned into a little bit of a hoarder, but that's okay too if you use it from time to time. You'll see that banner here in just a bit. I'm probably thinking about the collage on the bottle and how I want to handle that. Alright, I've pulled up some Deco Art matte medium. This is the media line. Being fairly neat, keeping it in the lines. And here I'm using some Canvas Corp printed tissue paper. And I'm going to fill in the entire bottle with tissue paper. And then I'll be able to come back and won't have to worry about background pieces of black shining through the heavier paper, the cardstock. Not worrying about where the pieces overlap because I can tear those off or come back under them, glue them down, tear pieces off, stick them somewhere else. But I did find this tissue paper is regular tissue paper weight. It does not have any kind of a waxy coating, which is good for a lot of uses. But it did cause me some problems because it tended to rub off when it got wet. Turn off a few of those extra edges. See what I've got. Now here's where I come back in, I think, with the matte medium and kind of dissolve the paper. No, I guess not. I'm going to start putting some cardstock from this mixed media pack. Because the tissue paper's underneath it, I don't have to overlap my main collage elements as I would if the bottle was completely black underneath. So it just kind of gives me a similar printed background to work with. Alright, let's see what we've got here. I've got some that I think I want to run across the edge. And I didn't worry about where the pieces I tore left some black showing. That does not matter to me. And getting some little cheese in there. Another wine cork. Maybe. Just figuring this out, piecing it together. Okay, I'm going to start gluing these pieces down, and I'll be back. Alright, pulled out some Tattered Angels mistable paper. This one is in crepe. And it's a semi-translucent or translucent semi-transparent paper. And it takes the Tattered Angels mist really well, whether you spray them or paint them on. And I'm going to be using a variation of painting it on so I don't get the mist everywhere. I'm using Glimmer Glaze here in Champagne, Pewter. I'm going through them so fast I can't read them. What I usually do is just open that drawer and grab out if I'm working with reds, like in the case of the Merlot, I wanted red wine. I'll just pull out several reds, several pinks. Some show really well, some don't. This Champagne is a little bit of a three-dimensional acrylic, so I'm just kind of using it to showcase what the glass would, where the glass would be. I love the Glimmer Glaze because it comes with a paintbrush built into the lid, like a fingernail polish bottle. I'm using Glimmer Mist straight out of the bottle. And you can tell how I'm using 2 or 3 different reds to give it variety. That's what you're after, variety. Because depending on how the light hits a wine glass full of wine, you're going to get dark areas and light areas depending on what's behind it and what's reflecting. I'm just playing with the materials, finding some things that make a mark. I'm drying it as I go so that I don't melt everything that's under it. Well, melt, you know what I mean. Get it wet, it all smudges together. If you followed me much at all, you'll know that I like to keep the integrity of each color separate. I don't like to mush things together until it's an indescribable third color. This is Afraid of the Dark, one of my favorite colors. That's kind of an indigo blue, a little bit of purple, and then the mica has a little bit of an undertone of a couple of different colors. And that's all I know about that. But I like it. And this is, I did say I wasn't going to do any painting in here, but I did. I lied. Lots of shimmer. That's a old, almost dried up bottle of Liquitex Basics gesso. I like to use gesso for white because it is a little bit translucent, where white pigment would jump up and scream at you. Gesso tends to blend in a little bit. It's softer. Just keep working on it, keep pushing it, letting all those first layers shine through. And before you know it, you've got a realistic wine glass. Now, at some point, I realized that I can't have the white as the background. Here's where I'm doing it. Because the background this glass is sitting on is that black canvas. So the only white that's going to show is from highlights. It's a dance, remember that. I'm beginning to add some glimmer glazes and some glimmer mist to the bottom of this canvas to see what shows up. Some will blend in, some will show up, some will be very subtle. I did move the small wine glass, the fabric one, behind the painted one so that it would look like it was sitting behind and back at a distance. And that was how I dealt with the size difference. So you can kind of pretend it's sitting back there on the other side of the table in somebody else's glass. There, that's my story. Just about got all the pieces together. Now with the glimmer glaze, if you put a layer on and let it set up, and then come back and put another layer on, you're going to accent that three-dimensional effect. If it's not what you want, then don't do it that way. When you're putting a cardstock or heavier paper down on a collage, it's a good idea to get it fairly wet and let that paper start to absorb the liquid, because it's sometimes a challenge to get it to adhere the first time. That's why you see me put it down and hold it. And of course a thicker matte medium would work too, but I didn't have any handy. And at some point I realized that all that matte medium that extends out past my collage pieces has made shiny marks on my gesso. So I'll address that too. Could have been more careful, but yeah, there you go. The things you learn as you go. Always overlap a few pieces so it makes it look more realistic. Here's where I'm coming back with the black gesso, and I'm going to attack those shiny spots. In theory, it should work. But don't overthink this stuff, guys. Just tackle each issue as it crops up, and don't stress about it. There's always a solution, a cover-up or a do-over. You can cover the whole thing up if you want to. Wipe part of it back and see a ghost of what you started with. So enjoy the process. I probably could have come back in with a bigger brush and just repainted the entire background. I didn't think about that. I've got some wonky outlines on the bottle that the realistic painter in me is trying to figure out. Checking my proportions again. Those are the modifications that someone on a galloping horse would never see. But now I'm going back in and adding some shadowing on the far side. Just put it on and then add a wet brush and rub it back. And this is kind of where I got into trouble with the tissue paper. It didn't like being rubbed or wet. And what can you do to prevent that? Coat the whole bottle with matte medium when you finish your collage, and that seals it. Did I do that? Nope. And it doesn't take much at all to create a three-dimensional form. Just a little bit of dark on the side away from the light and a little bit of a highlight. Gloves in a bottle, what am I doing? I don't ever use that. I got flat toothpicks out, so I must be coming up with some grand adventure here. Now I'll put a little bit of the dark shadowing on the front side. Oh, I see what I'm doing. When you work with a lot of matte medium, sometimes it takes an hour or two to peel it off in the evening. So I thought I would put some gloves in a bottle on. That's what I was doing. Make it easier to come off. Anyway, shading on the back, shading on the front side of the edge of the bottle. Just, not quite as much as you have on the back. And then you come in from that lit edge and add your white or a light color, not on the edge exactly, but in from the edge, and that creates a rounded look. Here I'm cutting through the collage. Oh my goodness. Oh well, I guess I could always put duct tape on the back of it if I cut through. Don't try this if you're not experienced with an X-Acto knife. Alright, so I say poopy. That one is down there, so I'm just going to come back and paint over it. Adding a little bit of shading on the back side of the glass so that it matches the light. Doesn't matter where your light's coming from, but you do need to be sort of consistent. I had my watercolor tutor is Charles Reed, and he is an awesome guy to study with. I asked him one time, I said, you start a painting at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, and then you're still working on the same painting at 3 o'clock. Don't you worry about the sun having changed position? And he looked at me and took his corncob pipe out of his mouth, and he said, nope, nobody's ever said anything either. So part of the painting might have a light on the shade on one side, and it might have shade on the other side when he gets finished. High impact white paint. Now this paint is designed for fabric, but it works just as good on paper. It's translucent, so it won't cover up everything that's underneath it. And see how I'm putting that little, this is kind of a shadowy white area. I'm dancing it in there, just not in your face, but just creating the illusion of the way the light would be hitting that bottle. The translucency of the paint allows me to come back after that's dry and slowly add smaller areas of more opaque white, and it creates a very realistic illusion. Remember what I said about overlapping things? It gives it more interest. Here I'm using some golden micaceous iron oxide fluid acrylic, and I've got some tulip puff paint and my flat toothpicks. And I'm playing to see which tool gives me the best fluidity so that I can run it through this fine tip marker. So I added some of Tracy Bautista's, don't want to waste anything, so I'm putting it back in the jar. Good grief. I added a little bit of water. I added some of Tracy Bautista's Collage Podge, which is something similar to Mod Podge. to see if I can get the effect I'm after with this fine tip marker. Forgive the head. It used to be Red. That was my nickname. I went by Red. You can still call me Red. Okay, I'm beginning to get a little bit of a viscosity there. Put the lid back on. Dry it and see what we get. I want something that's super shiny. There you can see my banner. And I have begun to add. At some point, I start adding some glimmer mists and sprays at the top.
Just like I do in my book, I'm going to come back in on these lines and thicken some up to give that some dimension.
Oh, this is where I sampled it on the edge.
I can go on whichever side of that line I want to.
It's hard to work on a 24-inch canvas on a flat mixed media work table and get it where I can work on it and the camera can still see it too. I think that's what we're doing here. All right, here we go.
Oh, you see good. Definitely going to speed this up.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Here we go.
I love it when the plan comes together. Because I hadn't even thought about doing angles. The deal is, this looks so good, I just like sitting on our TV table. The pen works so well, visually, with all the different papers in this line and patterns in this line, that deserves a little more focus. You see, that looks really good. And we'll come back and put a dot. Cool.
What I was after was something that was a little bit dimensional. But thin enough to look like a doodle. If I had to mix that formula again, I couldn't do it, but I just kept throwing stuff in the bottle till I got a shininess and glimmer. This actually worked really well. I was tickled with the way it turned out. I think I also put some glimmer glaze in there. One of the, maybe Night. That's another great color. So it's a real combination of products. Okay, I came back with my fine line bottle this morning and thinned it down with a little bit of water. And then I added some triple thick glaze. This is by Americana. And it's kind of similar to the Tim Holtz Glossy Accents. Kind of, sort of. And then I added a little bit of water. And some Glimmer Glaze in Galaxy. And I've got to get this up more level. If y'all can see my jerry-rigged studio right now. I've got two easels over there on the other side of the room that would hold this size canvas really nicely, but I don't have a video camera set up over there. Whoops. Oopsie. Sure is going fast, going smoother than, whoops, see, I keep getting bleed throughs. Darn it. Well, it seems to be standing up better. The dots over here do, so let's carefully keep going and see what happens. What happened? Whoa! I had a little bit of clog. And then you stick your finger in it. Smooth move, X-Lax. I've still got some edges that need to be glued down good. Y'all aren't really seeing a lot of that. I brought that side down longer, which is good. I had to keep going over this area to outline the top edge of that banner because the mixture that I had kept seeping down behind my collage. So that's what I keep doing over and over here. So remember that when you come on this kind of a situation. Might be better have some kind of a seal or something like that, a little thin bead of matte medium first. I am finishing some stuff today. Let's see what I've got here. Mel's Diner. Purple. I'm almost positive it's still here because I sure haven't put anything up in the past few days. I have been slinging and painting. Alright, let me find it. Okay, the wine bottle needs resolved. Let me see if I can get you a little bit of a picture here of what I've done. I've used the Glimmer Glaze and put dots in to add just a little bit of color to my black shiny doodles. Can you see it from there? Oh, there's a good one. So the top part of it is finished. It's got some stuff on it, and I have added the white reflection to the bottle, so it's real close. And this fabric glass needs to be resolved. So what I'm going to try to do first is paint with a Glimmer Mist Merlot Gold. Oh yeah, that's going to work great. And then I want a little bit of rum punch. I need a little bit, so we would have a little bit of a reflection down here. Just a tad. And now I want a silvery blue galaxy, soft pewter. Because this white glass is reflecting or seeing through the, well, we're on a black background is what I'm trying to say, so you're not going to see all this white. So I just wanted something to kind of kill that just a little. Smooth it out with a wet paintbrush. Here's Galaxy. You know what? I can come back with my fine line that I used to make my tangles at the top. Because the fabric is not sealed, I'm getting a little bit of bleed. So what you want to do is learn to work with your materials. Don't panic, because that line can be cleaned up in half heartbeat with a black pen. You can't get much more perfect than that. Trying to give the glass just a little bit of form. And I think that's got it. Getting the fine tip thing back in there is always my biggest challenge. That little needle goes way down in there and keeps that fine point from clogging. Now I'm happy with that glass. That looks good. We could use just a little bit, about like that, right here. And I think I'm going to put some fine liner around the bottle. We'll see. Okie doke. Now I need to distress the bottom of this just a little bit. And I think what I'm going to use is my Merlot Gold. Nope, that's Steiner. Doesn't need much, just actually we're close, guys. I'm going to dry this. I'll be right back. I'm back with a micron. See if I can do this gracefully. Whoops, there goes another painting. I just want to clean up a few lines here and there. White Sharpie. If it would work. There it goes. It's probably not liking the wet paint. It's also dissolving into the fabric. So I'm going to move to Deco Art. This is their paint marker. It's got a little bigger tip on it. Different formulation. That's too stark. There you go. Don't be afraid of your supplies. Use a baby wipe if you're uncertain about a mark you just made. Use a baby wipe or your finger or something to smudge the edges. Let it come in and disappear. Okay. I call this dumbing it down. You don't want to write a letter and explain every mark. You want them to look like they just, what they are. They're just pieces of reflections that hit the light. And I think that we're going to declare victory on this one. I'm going to sign it right down here. Well, where am I going to sign it? I'm going to sign it right there on that, right here. And another one bites the dust. I'll have to get good pictures of that. Happy. I am happy. Can you see the glimmer in here? Look at that. Is that amazing? And it's somewhat watered down with medium and a little bit of water so it would go through there. My glass looks good. I'm happy. Happy, happy. See up here? Cool. Alright, that one's done.